Concussion symptoms and actions. This presentation has two main objectives. First, to examine the symptoms of a concussion, and second, to talk about what you can do if you think you might have a concussion. A concussion is a brain injury. It's caused by a blow to the head or the body, and it can change the way your brain works. These brain injuries can range from mild to severe and can be different for each person. A concussion does not require you to lose consciousness. Experts say a concussion is a functional, not a structural injury. That means you can't see a concussion. Your brain just works differently when it's injured, and you will feel the effects of that. So the most important thing is for you to understand what the signs and symptoms of a concussion are. That's the only way that you can see a concussion. If you get a concussion, you might notice some symptoms right away, but other symptoms can show up hours or days after the injury. This list contains some of the most common symptoms, and we'll review several of these here. The first is a headache. The headache is the most common of all concussion symptoms, especially a headache that just won't go away. If you have a headache and it's getting worse over time, though, that's your brain telling you you might need to go get help immediately. Concussion symptoms may also include nausea or a feeling you may vomit. In fact, that's not uncommon to vomit after sustaining a concussion. There could be many reasons for this. One is that your system or balance is just off. If you're someone who gets motion sickness, you might be more likely to have nausea with a concussion. You might notice that you're having trouble concentrating or remembering things. This might happen right away, or maybe the next day in class or at work. When you get a concussion, things are just off. Your brain has a harder time coordinating the signals in your body that tell it where you are in space and help keep you balanced. You might find that you have more trouble than usual balancing, or you might get dizzy more easily. Concussions can also mess with your eyesight. You might notice that your vision is fuzzy or that you're seeing two of everything. Your eyes need your brain to help them focus and interpret what's around you, but your brain just can't help properly when it's been injured. The same is true of your reactions to light and noise. You may notice that light bothers you or makes your symptoms worse. You may also not be able to tolerate noise. It's just more stimulation for a brain that wants to rest and get better. When your brain is in pain, you may feel sluggish or like you're in a fog. A groggy feeling can also occur with a concussion. You may feel really tired, or you might find that you just can't fall asleep. Some people who have suffered concussions tell us they feel like they're moving in slow motion. The brain just can't send those messages to move fast enough. As a result, you react to things that happen around you more slowly. Trying to live life at a normal pace just doesn't work. And trying to compete in your sport can impact your performance and put you at risk for another injury. Everything may bother you, making you unusually irritable. You may find yourself getting upset with someone or something for the smallest reason. Concussions can be frustrating, especially if you don't know the signs and symptoms, to interpret what you're doing and how you're feeling correctly. You may experience amnesia or at least have trouble remembering things. Oh wait, did I cover this one already? I can't remember. While we all have trouble remembering things sometimes, with a concussion you will notice a difference, especially when combined with some of the other symptoms. The more you ask your brain to do in its injured state, the worse you will feel. It just can't perform like it normally does. It needs to rest. If you're not careful, you can make your symptoms worse. Exercise or activities that involve a lot of concentration, such as studying, working on the computer, or playing video games, may cause concussion symptoms to reappear or get worse.
Concussion is a brain injury. I think that's an important thing to understand. And while they might be less severe than people who have a fracture or blood in their brain, it's still an injury to your brain. I think one thing that you need to understand is that you don't have to be knocked out or be unconscious to think that you might have a concussion. A concussion really is, it changes how your brain is able to think and remember and function, and that can affect you in a whole variety of ways. Some of the most common things that people feel when they have a concussion is their head hurts, or they get just sort of pressure in their head. They notice that light and noise are really much more bothersome than they should be in situations. They can just not feel quite right. Sometimes it's hard to really sort of put your specific finger on what it is, but you just aren't quite right. Sometimes you may notice that that you just feel more slowed down, like it's taking you longer to sort of think and remember and solve problems or think of words when those things would normally come quite easily to you. Some folks can even feel like they can tell that their balance and their vision aren't quite right, can be trouble to, read books or look at screens. And obviously if you're a student, you may notice that really affecting your ability to study and do your academic work. It can be difficult to know if the symptoms that you have, possibly are or are not concussion. But I think the important message for most people who are involved in an activity that, concussion is possible, is to have some understanding of all those things that I talked about that could, maybe you just don't feel quite right. And if you have any concerns that you could have any of those things that don't feel your normal you, is to let somebody know. Probably the worst thing that you could probably do is be feeling not well or not yourself and then continue to participate in an activity where you could take more blows to the head. So it's really important to sort of recognize that there could be a problem and then let somebody know and remove yourself from any activity where you could take another blow to the head until you've been checked out. So of those list of things I described that athletes can notice just don't seem quite right, I want you to think about if any of those might apply to you and if they're affecting your daily life or your schoolwork or your ability to exercise in any way.
If you think you have a concussion, you need to do something. There are 3 simple things to remember. 1, you can tell a healthcare professional, and they can assess you to see whether you in fact do have a concussion. 2nd, you need to take time to recover. Your brain needs time to rest and to heal. And 3rd is that you really should not ignore a possible concussion. Know the symptoms and get checked out. So as a reminder, these are the symptoms that we reviewed in this particular document. If you've had some kind of blow to the body or to the head, and you're feeling any of these, it's probably a good idea to let somebody know. Remember that severe brain injury can change your whole life. It's better to miss one game than an entire season. So when in doubt, get checked out.